The Adversity Advantage: Turning Everyday Struggles into Everyday Greatness, by Paul G. Stoltz, Ph.D., and Erik Weihenmayer. Narrated by Lloyd James. Copyright 2006, Paul G. Stoltz, Ph.D., and Erik Weihenmayer. This unabridged audiobook is published by arrangement with Paul G. Stoltz, Ph.D., and Erik Weihenmayer, and the Denise Marcel Literary Agency, Incorporated, and was produced in the year 2006 by Tantor Media, Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. We dedicate this book to Mark Weihenmayer, 1959 to 2006, and to those who face adversity every day, yearning to emerge stronger and better. May adversity become the pathway through which you flourish. Your greatness is needed. Foreword by Stephen R. Covey. Many years ago, while on a sabbatical from my university, I was wandering around the stacks of a library in Hawaii and pulled down a book that caught my interest. What I read was so inspiring, so compelling, and so profound that it changed my life from that moment on. These were the 3 sentences I memorized. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom and power to choose our response. In those choices lie our growth and our happiness. Just think about it. Between whatever has happened to you, or is now happening to you, and your response to it, there is a space in which you have the power and freedom to choose your response. Those chosen responses will govern your growth and your happiness. In fact, they will govern your achievements and your contributions. In other words, we are not animals. Animals possess no self-awareness, no space between stimulus and response. As human beings, we are not merely products of our genetics, our conditioning, or our present circumstances. The Adversity Advantage is an in-depth, magnificent example of these 3 sentences that have had such a profound impact upon me. I'll repeat them again. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom and power to choose our response. In those choices lie our growth and our happiness. This is not a theoretical book, even though there is extensive theorizing. This is not a book full of abstract idealism, even though it shows how the ideal can become real. Instead, this book is a synergistic product of 2 marvelous individuals who teamed up to share what they have learned from their respective experiences. Erik, from climbing the 7 highest peaks on the 7 continents of the world; Paul, from his life's work decoding and strengthening the human relationship with adversity. Their work together on this book was just like a climb, a grueling ascent through innumerable obstacles, culminating in this powerful message from the top of the world. Just think about it for a moment. Erik brought his insights from the mountains. Paul added his newest thoughts and helped Erik shape those insights into a lesson plan for readers all over the world, hoping to achieve everyday greatness. Between adversity and the response is a space. In that space are the power and the freedom to choose to crumble or to elevate ourselves and others, as these 2 authors do by sharing their work with us. Primary greatness lies in character and in contribution. Secondary greatness is found in prestige, wealth, position, and the kinds of achievements that make no solid, lasting contribution to others. All of us want our children and grandchildren to develop primary greatness. They may also attain secondary greatness, but few people ever achieve both. A few celebrities do, but most celebrities achieve only secondary greatness. Many everyday people achieve primary greatness, particularly parents who raise children of character and contribution. There is one common thread that runs through all greatness: the effective use of the space between stimulus and response. In short, how do people deal with adversity, setbacks, suffering? heartache, disappointment, and injustice? Do they become victims, consumed by the metastasizing cancers of cynicism, criticizing, complaining, comparing, competing, and contending? Or do they learn to harness the power, energy, and wisdom embodied in the difficult moment, the difficult space between stimulus and response? How ironic it is that what enables us to grow and to experience true joy in life is the very thing most people spend their lives trying to avoid. A life of convenience and comfort is the course of least resistance, and contributes nothing. Couch potatoes contribute nothing. I take as a mantra for life, grow or die. Keep learning and contributing, or die. I believe this is true not just symbolically, but literally. When we stop growing and learning, we die mentally, we die emotionally, and we die early physically. Hans Selye, arguably the most quoted expert on stress, taught that what keeps our immune system strong and the regenerative forces of the body active is meaningful work and contribution, the essence of which is adversity. Let's live our lives in crescendo. Want to learn a new language? Pay the price. Practice, suffer, and deny yourself. Want to strengthen a muscle? Exercise it until the fiber breaks, and within 24 hours you will become stronger. I'll never forget how a strength trainer taught me this principle many years ago. He said, "Stephen, keep lifting the weight until you feel you can't go any farther. Then, go one more. No pain, no gain." I asked him why this was so. He said, "When you go a little farther, the muscle fiber ruptures. Nature repairs it within a 48-hour period, and it becomes stronger." Dr. Viktor Frankl wrote the foreword to one of Hans Selye's books. Frankl was the Austrian psychiatrist who wrote the marvelous international bestseller Man's Search for Meaning, wherein he described his experiences with adversity while imprisoned in the death camps of Nazi Germany. He described how, when his captors put him under white lights, stripped him naked, and began performing ignoble sterilization experiments on his body, he truly became aware of the space between stimulus and response, and used it to find a meaning in his suffering. He then worked with others to help them find meaning in their suffering. One time the Nazi guards burned his manuscript, and the meaning he found in that setback was to write it again, better. One time a prisoner wanted to commit suicide. Dr. Frankl asked him why he didn't. He said, "Because of what it would do to my suffering wife." Dr. Frankl helped him to understand how this realization gave his life meaning. Someone who has a why can live with any what and with any how. Dr. Frankl eventually would become the father of logotherapy, one of the most powerful psychotherapeutic approaches ever developed, and particularly influential throughout Europe. When Frankl wrote the foreword to Hans Selye's book, he brought out the importance of harnessing the energy, power, and wisdom of adversity, even though he didn't use the word harnessing, as this book does. Dr. Selye believed that this is the reason why women live longer than men, 6 to 8 years longer on average. The key difference? A woman's work is never done. Women multitask and deal with many different adversities coming from different directions. They typically have meaningful goals and causes to which they are committed and contributing. Many men die shortly after retirement, particularly those who've become too career-focused during their working lives and then want to shift to a more pleasurable, stress-free lifestyle. They lose their sense of meaning. Dr. Selye talked about the importance of eustress, the good kind of stress which comes from having meaningful work, goals, and projects that contribute to society. Distress is the negative kind of stress that comes from trying to avoid the stresses and adversities of life. One key lesson is this: no challenge and adversity, no deeper sense of meaning and purpose. The remarkable thing about the adversity advantage is how applicable it is to every facet of life: physical, mental, social, emotional, economic, spiritual. Want to make a new contribution? Make a new preparation. Pay the price. Swim upstream against the cultural currents. Turn the TV way down. Want to live a healthy, long life? Stress your body, but don't overstress it. Participate in aerobics, strength training, and flexibility exercises. Push yourself wisely. Eat wisely. Subordinate taste to nutrition until you re-educate your taste buds. Want to improve your relationships? See love as a verb rather than as a feeling. One time a man came to me asking for advice about the difficulty he was having in his marriage. Love, he said, was gone, and he was concerned about the effect on his children. I said, "Then love her." "How do you love when you don't love?" he asked. I continued, "Love is a verb, not a feeling. Love, the feeling, is the fruit of love, the verb. Why do you think mothers are so bonded to their children? Because of the suffering they went through to bring children into the world and all the sacrifices they made raising them. Love, the feeling, is the product of love, the verb. Love is the service you give to another, caring for someone more than you care for yourself. Listen to your wife. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Do the math." He answered, "I don't know if I can do all that." I responded, "Just try it for 30 days. You've gone for 30 years. What's another 30 days? Just give of yourself in loving ways. Stop criticizing, finding fault, and blaming. Serve her. Listen to her. Anticipate her needs. Just practice these habits for 30 days. You'll find that love is a verb, and that love, the feeling, will return." It did. Love those difficult to love. The adversity advantage. Business people, do you want more customers? Give second-mile service. Go beyond what others do. Look on your customers' difficulties and problems as the adversity advantage, a situation where you can provide this kind of caring and creative service, where you go way beyond what is normally expected. You'll get these customers for life. Want to build a strong, high-trust, high-productive culture in your organization so that everyone is focused on second-mile service? Use the adversity advantage. Pay the price with your people. Get to know them, listen to them, and understand them. Their pains, their hopes, their desires, their problems, and their self-doubts. Be true to them behind their backs, when the easier way would be to join others in criticizing them. If you are critical, then go and give them feedback. This will take courage, particularly if you do it in a humble, not an arrogant, way. Want to grow spiritually? Let service be your mantra for life. Never retire from meaningful work or meaningful projects. Where much is given, much is required. There is too much pain in the world to ever retire from meaningful work, even though you might retire from your occupation. This kind of service will mean seeking out adversity on a daily basis, but you'll learn to take on these challenges, summon your strengths, engage your core, and explore alternatives. You'll learn to pioneer possibilities, pack light and right, suffer well, and then deliver this kind of great service on a consistent, regular basis. The magnificent principles in this book represent the tallest mountains on the 7 continents of the world. They are presented inductively so that you can earn the insights, not just learn them. Inductive thinking means moving from the specific to the general. Deductive thinking means starting with theory, the general, and then applying it to specific situations. In the adversity advantage, you start with the specifics, Erik's mountain experiences, and then are led to the general by a very wise author. Dr. Paul Stoltz is best known for his adversity quotient, which has become the most widely accepted method in the world for assessing and strengthening our ability to deal with adversity. Over 500,000 people have measured their AQs and begun the journey of strengthening how they deal with adversity. He has written 2 internationally acclaimed books, works with top leaders worldwide, and has done groundbreaking research in at least 21 countries to gain an understanding of those rare people who don't just deal well with adversity, but convert it into fuel to achieve greatness. This book is filled with tools, principles, inventories, and challenges that are practical and compelling. I found that the very process of studying this book led me to look carefully at myself with an awareness of how the challenges of my life can be the fuel that will enable me to swim against the stream, against cultural currents, against all forms of adversity inherent in my most important goals. Setbacks are inevitable, but misery is a choice. This book can help equip us to harness and utilize the hard moments to achieve the greatest heights of growth and contribution. That's where true happiness is, true joy. This book has inspired me to develop a greater appreciation for adversity and to see the motherlode of wisdom and possibilities to be found in adversity. It has inspired me to be an alchemist, to turn lead into gold. I also had to pay the price myself with this book. It's not something you just quickly skim to get the main points. You have to earn those points by working with the material and trying to internalize it. One of the best ways to learn this material is to teach the essence of the 7 steps to your loved ones and others who might be interested. I can hardly believe what these 2 authors have done. Teamed up, roped together, because they want to bless and elevate other people. You can feel the integrity and sincerity of their souls breathing through these pages. I often ask audiences, how many of you have achieved your present level of success, whatever it may be, partly or largely because someone believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself? Usually, about 2/3 of the audience members will raise their hands. And when you listen to some of them, you see tears shed by both speakers and listeners. Erik began to lose his sight during the summer between his 8th grade and 9th grade years. He basically felt that life was over for him. He didn't have a personal relationship with a man named Terry Fox, who lost a leg to cancer and made the decision to run across Canada from east to west. But Erik says that with the little sight he had left, he pressed his nose against the TV screen one day, tears pouring down his face, and watched Terry Fox run. He says, "I watched as the miles took a tremendous toll on his amputated leg and its primitive prosthetic. He hobbled along mile after mile, fighting the pain of blisters and raw skin, at times using a pair of crutches to propel his body forward." Then he adds something very significant. "What struck me most was the look on his face. It was the look of extreme contradiction, complete exhaustion combined with ultimate exaltation. I will never forget that look. I see it in my mind every day. In his thin face was the trace flicker of an intense internal light that burned power into his struggling frame. The image filled my sagging spirit and gave me a feeling of utter courage." Later he explains, "I believe that inside each of us is something I can only describe as a light, which has the capacity to feed on adversity, to consume it like fuel. When we tap into that light, every frustration, every setback, every obstacle becomes a source to power our lives forward. The greater the challenge, the brighter the light burns. Through it, we become more focused, more creative, and more driven, and can even learn to transcend our own perceived limitations to bring our lives more meaning." Dear listeners, pay the price with this book. The dividends will be abundant and will last forever. Introduction. What if, as a result of completing this book, you could use any, and I mean any, adversity to your advantage? What if you could convert your everyday struggles, big and small, into the kind of fuel that powers you past everyday normality to everyday greatness? Isn't there something incredibly riveting about the human struggle with adversity? Not only is it the central strand of our story, shared across eras and cultures, but we also read about it in all the great books, are spellbound by it in popular movies, and wrestle with it in our own lives every day. Why adversity? Maybe it's because within that struggle lies the essential wisdom we all need to become the kind of person we hope to be, or to nurture the kind of team or organization we envision. In fact, after spending the past few years working on this book, I'm convinced that adversity holds the key to achieving everyday greatness in life, business, and society. We don't have to go looking for adversity. It tends to find us. During the summer between 8th and 9th grades, I began losing the last traces of my sight. I could no longer see enough to walk around by myself, so my brothers and parents had to lead me. I'd reach out for their shirt sleeves with the terror of a small child being left behind in a department store. I hated what was happening because it represented utter helplessness. Everything I knew was ending. The loss was like a storm descending on me with such force, such viciousness, that I thought I'd be crushed by it. Late that fall, I was watching a TV show called That's Incredible. I could still see a little out of one eye, though I had to crane forward to just a few inches away from the set. Being featured that night was an athlete named Terry Fox. Terry had lost a leg to cancer, and when not yet discharged from the hospital, made a decision to run across Canada from east to west. With my nose pressed up against the screen, and with tears pouring down my face, I watched Terry run. The miles took a tremendous toll on his amputated leg and its primitive prosthetic. He hobbled along mile after mile, fighting the pain of blisters and raw skin, often using a pair of crutches to propel his body forward. What struck me most was the look on his face. It was a look of extreme contradiction, full of exhaustion, yet radiant with exaltation. In his thin face was the trace flicker of an intense internal light that burned power into his struggling frame. The image filled my sagging spirit and gave me a feeling of utter courage. Many would have retreated from such hardship, but, surprisingly, Terry faced it head-on and literally ran into its midst. It was while staring into Terry's face that I first wondered how we could harness that great storm of adversity swirling around us and use its power to make ourselves stronger and better. Although I was inspired by Terry, I learned early on that inspiration is not enough. If a person embarks on a mountain expedition unprepared and unequipped, the fierce wind, the frigid cold, the steep and technical terrain will do him in every time. Likewise, in order to consistently convert everyday adversity, big and small, into genuine advantage in our lives and enterprises, we need some powerful and proven tools. And no one is better qualified to teach us about those tools than the guy I teamed up with to write this book, Dr. Paul Stoltz. Paul is perhaps best known for his adversity quotient, or AQ theory, which has become the most widely adopted method in the world for measuring and strengthening our capacity to deal with adversity. Decoding the human relationship with adversity has been and continues to be Paul's life work. It was through Paul's groundbreaking research that we met. His focus on people who harness life's tough stuff led him to launch the Global Resilience Project, an effort now involving studies in 21 countries. His quest was to gain a better understanding of those rare people, like Terry, who don't just deal well with adversity, but learn to convert it into fuel to achieve everyday greatness. You might remember from your history textbooks those medieval alchemists who toiled mysteriously to turn lead into gold. I call the people like Terry, the people Paul has highlighted in his research, modern-day alchemists. I believe that inside each of us is something I can only describe as a light, which has the capacity to feed on adversity, to consume it like fuel. When we tap into that light, every frustration, every setback, every obstacle becomes a source to power our lives forward. The greater the challenge, the brighter the light burns. Through it, we become more focused, more creative, and more driven, and can even learn to transcend our own perceived limitations to bring our lives more meaning. All of us can be alchemists, taking the lead that life piles on top of us and finding ways to transform it into gold. I strive to be an alchemist every day. I climbed the 7 summits, the tallest peaks on each of the 7 continents, not only because I love to climb, but also to shatter people's perceptions of what's possible. And somewhere along the way, I learned more about the advantages of adversity than I ever imagined I would. There is something inherently compelling about an ascent. I believe that deep inside us, we all strive to move forward and up, to scale new heights. Paul and I have, therefore, organized this book into 7 summits, based on 7 guiding principles that will help you use adversities to your advantage, as a way to infuse some practical greatness into your daily life. I begin each summit, each chapter, with a story from one of the 7 actual summits that I climbed. In between, Paul draws from my lessons and his worldwide research to teach you how you can generate power from your everyday struggles, elevating you and everyone you touch. By everyone, Erik and I hope you include the people you interact with through your work, your community, your family, and more. This is because the ripple effect, both positive and negative, of how you relate to adversity extends out to all whom you influence, including many who are unaware of your impact. That's the potential power of the adversity advantage, and it's why Erik and I love the word elevate. To elevate means to raise to a higher level or position, or to raise one's mind or spirit to a more enlightened or exalted level. And when you really come down to it, isn't that what you want to do with your life? What every parent hopes to do for a child? What every leader ultimately wants to do for his or her organization? You might be thinking that any sensible person seeks less adversity, not more, right? Here's the problem. While you can certainly have an enjoyable life, you cannot reach beyond pleasure to even the most basic level of greatness without a healthy dose of the very thing most people seek to diminish. Why? Because adversity alone has the unique power to inspire exceptional clarity, purge any vestiges of lethargy, refocus your priorities, hone your character, and unleash your most potent forces. Even minor setbacks provide fertile soil for elevating behavior. If you eliminate adversity, you miss out on life's deepest riches, highest gifts, and most potent lessons. The more adversity you escape, the less you become. In my first books introducing the adversity quotient, AQ, I talk in depth about quitters, campers, and climbers, the 3 categories of response to the daunting challenge of leading an ever-elevating life. Quitters simply give up on the ascent, the pursuit of an enriching life, and as a result are often embittered. Campers generally work hard, apply themselves, pay their dues, and do what it takes to reach a certain level. Then they plant their tent stakes and settle for their current elevation. Climbers are the rare breed who continue to learn, grow, strive, and improve until their final breath, who look back on life and say these precious words, "I gave it my all." It's no coincidence that climbers are the people we most admire, are drawn to, and seek to become. One of the major discoveries of my research is that at the heart of the difference between climbers and campers or quitters lies what they do with adversity. Relentlessly pursuing a life or building an organization rich in purpose can be tough. The weather on the mountain is rough and intensifying. That's why quitters abandon the ascent and campers hunker down. Only climbers take on the immensely gratifying challenge of learning, striving, improving, and contributing until their final breath. According to our poll of more than 150,000 leaders across all industries worldwide, many people quit, 5 to 20%, most camp, 65 to 90%, and a rare few climb. In fact, when leaders are asked, what percentage of your workforce is camping, the most common response is 80%. This is a tragic loss of potential, at a time when camping is increasingly costly and the benefits of climbing are particularly rich. But my previous books stopped short of explaining something powerfully distinct about climbers. I've discovered that the people with the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?